If you like to automate mob farms, then you should definitely give Drygmys from Ars Nouveau a try. These cute magical creatures allow you to farm most mobs imaginable, even Treasure Goblins and Pigliches. So grinding for gems, gear or Piglich hearts is over. In this guide I will show you each step you need to take to build up this farm. And I even will give you some in-depth knowledge about Drygmys. So let's get right into it. And here we are. So first off, we have the two mobs we have to talk about at the beginning. First off, we have the Drygmy itself, and also we have the Wilden Hunter. So the Drygmy is our end goal, right? But there's two types, so to say, of Drygmys. You have the normal ones you can find in the wild, and then there's the ones which are getting spawned through the Drygmy Charm, which is the one we're actually needing. To craft this Drygmy Charm, we're going to need Drygmy shards, which we can get from the wild Drygmys. But how do we get those shards? For that, we're going to have to give our Drygmy a Wilden horn, and these drop from the Wilden hunters. A quick demonstration how it's going to look like if you give the Drygmy a Wilden horn, and let's throw it in, and now it's going to do a little dance. That's how you get the Drygmy shards. You can get between 1 and 2 shards. The Drygmys you can find randomly throughout the world. I would definitely recommend you to always drop them the Wilden horn if you have one on your hand, because they can be quite hard to find, and you will definitely love your past self if you collect already some shards at the beginning of the game when you're still exploring. For the Wilden Hunter, there is one specific place where you can find them, which is called the Wilden Hunter Den. And this is what a den looks like. You can also see it on the map. It's like kind of this round earthen shape, and inside of this you can find multiple Wilden Hunters normally, as well as some treasure chests. But since both of them are kind of limited and kind of rare, if you play in a mod pack, I would definitely recommend you to get the mob swap from the mob grinding utensils, and then grab yourself some DNA from both of them. So this is going to look like this. Right click, and now we have the DNA, and now we could potentially craft this into some chicken feed. And if you give this to a normal chicken, the chicken's going to explode, and then you're going to have a Drygmy spawn egg. And with that spawn egg, you can potentially build a Drygmy spawner and then have unlimited amount of Drygmy shards, or an unlimited amount of Wilden horn if you do the same thing for the Wilden Hunter. However, to craft the Drygmy Charm, you are also going to need not just the Drygmy shards, but also source gems. For that, you're going to need a imbuement chamber. This one allows you to transform lapis lazuli and amethyst shards into source gems. And now if we place in our lapis lazuli, you can see our crafting progress is increasing, but also in the bottom left it tells you, hey, if you add source, then it's going to speed up the whole process. So let's do this quickly. This is like kind of the magic or the mana of this mod. And now you can see it's way faster, and we already got our source gem. If you have source, which I will get to later how you can generate this, then I would definitely always recommend you to use it. And we're already at a part where I tell you how you can get source. So for source, you're going to need source links. There are 5 types of source links. We have the alchemical, which generates source by consuming potions. The mycelial, which consumes food to generate source. We have the volcanic, which burns items to produce source. We have the vitalic, which generates source by mobs dying. And we have the agronomic one, which generates source by growing plants. I would definitely recommend you to start out with the agronomic one, because it's often quite easy to build some kind of farm. I will give you some examples in a second. The mycelial is also pretty good, and if you already have a mob farm, for instance from Apotheosis with spawners, and it's like automatically killing the mobs, then the vitalic one is really the best choice, since it's going to generate so much source for you. And this source is going to be stored inside of source jars. They look like this. They can fill up to 100%, and then you need another one. I also wanted to give you 2 different variants of source farms. First off, we have this one, which is really beginner friendly. You're just going to need some cactus, some sand, and then you're going to need a agronomic source link, as well as a source jar. Everything else, like this item collector, is not extremely necessary. It just makes it a bit cleaner. Because what's going to happen? With the cactus at the bottom, it's constantly growing, which is passively generating source for us. But since we have these slabs, it's automatically getting destroyed. It's just restarting the whole process. So this one you just set up once, and then you have no more hassle with it. However, it's a bit slow, especially in this size. But you could easily expand this because the agronomic source link has a range of 15 blocks. You can add about 5 to 6 more rows of cactus on both sides into all directions and have like a really strong passive source generator. And the reason why we have the advanced item collector on top from a different mod is just to collect the cactus, because when they grow, they get destroyed and then they would land on the ground. And we just want to destroy it so it's not generating any kind of lag for us. So actually, I'm just putting it directly into a trash can to get rid of it. Secondly, we have one which is a bit faster, but also takes more time to set up. For this one, we're also using a couple more mods from the older mods mod pack. This time, we're going to use the Mycelia source link together with the Sourceberries. So the Mycelia source link works with all types of food, but it gets the biggest boost from the Sourceberries. And those are new fruit which you can grow in Ars Nouveau. For the growing, we are using the hopper botany pots. Inside of these, we have our sourceberries together with some farmland. And then each of those are going to input their sourceberries into the barrels below them. And all of them are connected to our storage controller over here. And then we have some pipes below the controller, which are pumping out the combined sourceberries into each of those pedestals. And as you can see right now, the sourceberries are literally exploding and they are turning into a source over here. With each explosion, we are getting about 10% of the source jar. The reason why I showed you both of those source options is because we need constant flow of source while running the Drygmy Farm. So you don't only need it to boost up some of the production processes here or later. It's a constant flow which you're going to be able to run your farm. Now that you know how to generate some source, we can get to crafting the Drygmy Charm. For that, you're going to need the enchanting apparatus, the arcane core, and the arcane pedestal. All of them are kind of crafted through some kind of source stone and mostly some gold. The source stone is crafted by combining some stone together with some source gems. For the placement, the enchanting apparatus has to be the center piece. Below it, you have to place a arcane core, and then in a 3-block radius away from the enchanting apparatus, you have to place your arcane pedestals where you then place on your items. And for the Drygmy Charm, those are the items we're going to need. So we need some kind of seeds. We're going to need an apple, a carrot, some kind of fish, some wheat, 3 source gems, and the Drygmy shards. And we can just place them by right-clicking on the pedestals and we're adding them to it. Then we have the wheat in the back, some wheat seeds, the apple, the carrot, and the fish. So those are the outside ones. You can see that if we check in the recipe again, those are on the outside, and then we're going to need the Drygmy shard as the catalyst. So now by right-clicking on the enchanting apparatus, we are starting the whole transformation, which looks really nice to be honest. And we should get our Drygmy Charm in a second. And that's it. With that lovely sound, we now have one more Drygmy Charm in our inventory, which we can use to spawn our Drygmy. Before we spawn our Drygmy, I will quickly tell you about the containment jars, because the Drygmy can work with freely walking around mobs, but also if you want to have a really compact system as shown in the introduction, you should use containment jars, especially if you have hostile mobs. And for that, you're going to need the tablet of containment, which is a ritual tablet. And to craft the table of containment, you're going to need a waxing archwood log, which you can get from the new trees added by Ars Nouveau. And you can find these trees inside of the Archwood Forest, which is a new biome which got added. And the best way to find this in at least older mods is to use the Nature's Compass, and then you can sneak right click, type in Archwood, and that's how you find the forest. And you're going to need a manipulation essence. For that, you're going to need again the imbuement chamber, but this time we're actually going to add some arcane platforms around it. This time I used the small ones, so those are the same ones we used over there. But you can actually craft them by just putting them in a crafting table, and then you have the flat version, so to say. And there's only one more thing missing, so you need redstone, a clock, and a stone button. But we also need a source gem. So if I now right-click with the source gem, it's going to show us crafting progress 1 out of 100. So again, here, if you have source, please definitely add it next to it. And we're pretty close, 95. And here's our manipulation essence. And with that, we can now craft our tablet of containment. This tablet of containment needs to be used together with ritual brazier. This one is similarly crafted to the other objects. It's made of an arcane pedestal, which we made beforehand. You need a source gem block, which is just 4 source gems together. And then you're going to add 3 more gold ingots to that, and then you have your ritual brazier. For this one, actually, you do need source, so there's no way to do this without any kind of source productions. And you can activate this brazier by right-clicking. Now you can see tablet of containment awaiting activation. We can right-click, and now you can see it is running. Right now, it's constantly using up the source from the source jar. Since this is a creative version, it's not going to run out, but if you have it normally running, this would slowly get lower and lower. And now any kind of mob which is inside of this glowy radius is going to get contained into these jars. And now with the tablet of containment running, we can spawn our mobs. So I prepared a couple of ones just to show you how this is going to look like. So I prepared a typical cow, which instantly got collected over there. I got us a Piglich, and with a short delay, yes, we were lucky, it was not getting out of the range. We have this one now catched too. And then we also have a Treasure Goblin, which also got instantly catched. For those two, which since they both don't have any kind of spawn egg, I used the Quantum Catcher from Forbidden and Arcanus. So I captured both of them from their responsive spots. For the Piglich, you can find them in the pyramids. And for the Treasure Goblins, you can spawn them through one of the Apotheosis gems. The gem is called Gem of the Twilight Forest. So the mob is actually from the Twilight Forest mod. You can socket this gem into a weapon, and then if you attack with this weapon, an entity, there is a 1.5% chance to summon a Treasure Goblin. That means you just take a weapon, kill some mobs, and at some point this Treasure Goblin is going to spawn close to you. Then you use your Quantum Catcher, catch it, and then bring it close to your Tablet of Containment ritual, and then you have all 3 mobs. And now we're getting to the last area to explain you in detail how this thing works and how to optimize it. So first off, how do you get the Drygmy Farm started? For that, you need the Drygmy Charm we crafted not too long ago, and then you have to right click on a mossy cobblestone. This one you can either craft by combining a normal cobblestone with some vines, or you can also find them around the world normally. Let's right click, and now it's going to transform into a Drygmy Henge. That's what it looks like. So let's add our Piglich as well as our Treasure Goblin. I think those are the 2 most sought after mobs you can farm through the Drygmy. However, as you can see, it takes quite a lot of time because you shouldn't use a Drygmy by itself. You can add more Drygmies. So actually you can just spawn more Drygmies onto this one henge. So just craft more Drygmy Charms, and then you can right click, and now we already doubled the speed on how quickly we're going to produce items. And to give you a better understanding on how this whole system with the Drygmies work, I will show you this through the mod of integrated dynamics. So we need a display panel, a block reader, a logic cable, and a variable card. We're placing our block reader right onto our henge, then we're placing 1 logic cable and then 1 display panel. And inside of the block reader, we click onto that, scroll down, and then we should find a tile entity data block. Inside of this, you can put your variable card, it transforms it, puts the information inside of it, so to say, and then you can put this inside of your display panel. And if I quickly break this block, we can have a look at this panel to see the data about what is going on here right now. So first off, we have the first top ones, which are not really that important. We have converted. So is it a henge? Yes, it is. Then you have needs mana, no, because it's 0, because we have our creative source jar over there. Then we have the bonus. I will get to that in detail in a second. And then we have the progress. So this progress is depending on a config file in your game. And normally for most players, this should be at a value of 20. That means when our Drygmies reach a value of 20 here, then we get our item. And how this is calculated, that with each of this progression finishing, it's kind of simulating as if you would have killed this mob once. And to quickly explain how the loot gets calculated for the Drygmies. So you have a base drop, which is dependent on the drop chance of the item. So if you have something like a Pigliche chart, which can drop between 0 and 1, it can happen that your Drygmy finish their production, but you still don't get an item. If you have an item which definitely has a drop, then you will always see something. Quickly, we saw the progress switching to 0, and now we should have our first items. So as you can see, these are all the items we got through our first batch of the pygmies. The reason why we got so many items is mostly because of the bonus system, which I will get to in a second. So let's get into some details. So to explain you how does the progress system work, as I already showed you, there are 20 steps or channels, how it's called in Ars Nouveau, and each of them normally takes about 15 seconds. That means if you only have one Drygmy, it will take you 5 minutes to get one drop. That means it will take you, like even if you have something like a cow, 5 minutes to get a bit of a ladder. So the Drygmies at the beginning are often quite slow, but you can boost it by either getting more Drygmies. So if you spawn 20 of them on one henge, you get the progress speed of 15 seconds. Now we get to the happiness and bonus system. This one is really important if you want to maximize the amount of loot you can get, because each level of bonus is going to increase the amount of drops you get. So right now we have 37. That means from one Piglich run, we could get up to 37 Piglich hearts. So far we have not been lucky with one of our runs, because also it takes a lot of time, but it could be possible to get up to that amount. So how do you get more bonus? First off, you can increase the bonus value for each unique mob in a 10 by 10 area around the Drygmy henge. That means right now all of those mobs up there, as well as our 2 mobs down here, are contributing to this unique bonus. In total, we have here 16 jars, so 16 mobs. Each of them is giving us 2 points, so we get a bonus of 32. But we have a bonus of 37. Here comes the second point, which adds to that, which is the quantity bonus. This one is going to give us a amount of maximum 5. That means for each jar or each mob, we get 1 more point. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's the cap. So if you add more over those 5, it's not going to make a difference. To give you some examples to really clarify this, example A, we have 1 Piglich, so we have a bonus of 3. Because we get 2 points from the unique mob, and we get 1 from the quantity. Example B, we have 5 Pigliches, so we get 2 from the unique mobs and 5 maximum from the quantity. Because example C, we have 6 Pigliches, we still only get a bonus of 7 since we reached our cap and we already got our bonuses. And now we get to the mob loot decrease. For that one, I actually changed some configs to reduce the production time and then run the system. So if I would have done this without changing the config, this would have taken like 7 hours. Now it only took like 15 or so. And I made some tests on how do different mob types with loot affect the drop chances or the drop amount. And I figured out that roughly if you add 1 more mob, so instead of just having, let's say, Pigliches, you also add the Treasure Goblin, you are going to reduce the loot per mob by 25%. That means you only get 75% of the Pigliches and 75% of the Treasure Goblin. Still, in total, it's 150% loot, but if you don't care about other mobs, for instance, if this would be a cow and you're using it to increase the boost, you could negatively affect your Pigliche farm, for instance. This goes further if you add 3 mobs, or if you add a third mob to this, each of them is going to be at 70%. So 70, 70, and the third one, which would be there potentially, would also be at 70. That's the 3 different ones I tried. I didn't try with 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because this would have taken even more time. But you can see you have to be careful which mobs you pick to use for your farm. But you might be asking, Epic, like you have way more mobs. Like you have the Piglich, you have the Treasure Goblin, and all of those up there, because those up there don't have a loot table. That means if, for instance, we check the silverfish, we can see here in the mob drops panel that we don't get any loot from silverfish. And that's the same thing for all of these mobs. So I will quickly go through them so you can copy them. All of them are vanilla mobs. There are also, if you're playing in a mod pack, even more mobs which don't have a loot table. So in general, you could collect all of them and keep boosting your system without affecting the loot you are getting. So we have the bee, we have the tadpole, we have a goat, wolf, silverfish, endemite, pillager, vex, axolotl, a frog, the wandering trader, the camel, the sniffler, and LA. And that is our system. So right now what we could do, we can increase the amount of Drygmies to boost this up even more. However, the maximum I would recommend you to do is 20 Drygmies, because after that point, if you have 20, it's going to instantly fill up the henge. And the moment the henge is trying to transform the resources, all Drygmies stop working. So if you have 25, the first 20 are going to fill up the progress bar, and the 5 other ones are just going to be passive because they can't add anything anymore. So in this case, just put 20, and if you want to increase the production even more, place down a second cobblestone, make a second henge, and put 20 more Drygmies. And here's the outcome while I was talking and while I was giving you the tutorial of the loot we can get. Okay, with the stack modifiers, it already looks a bit better, especially the potions. One thing you can do in this moment, like filter out items you don't need. So you get Apotheosis gear, right, with different rarities. You can get everything from the normal one up to also the Godforged items, so everything is possible. You can get gems in all rarities. For instance, here we have a flawless solar gem. So this one is a really great farm for both Pigliches, but especially also the Treasure Goblin. And that's it about the Drygmy Farm. If you want to see how you can farm Treasure Goblins through an automated farm, then also check my video in the bottom left. And with that, I wish you all an amazing day.